Welcome back to the channel, lads and ladies, and welcome to Divinity Original Sin 2. This is the other game that I've been playing now, or I should say lately, and I've been playing something of a murder hobo. I don't generally roleplay as a killer in games, but the combat in Divinity is just so fun, and the magic and physical armor mechanic introduced with Original Sin 2 has increased the amount of enjoyment that I've gotten out of combat. In fact, from what I've seen so far of the game, and I've seen quite a bit of the game as this virus has us all locked in our homes. And by the way, apologies for the funky aspect ratio for this first clip. It's not always going to be that way. In fact, this is going to be the only one where things get a little bit swifty. So if you can hang in there with me and deal with the stretching, then that'll go away soon. I was saying that all of the changes I've seen in Divinity Original Sin 2 when compared with the original have been, from what I've seen, for the better. There is so much going on with this game that it's really hard to find a place to begin, but I am going to focus on the combat in this video. I would really like to get into a little bit of role-playing and storytelling in multiplayer, which is a thing on Divinity. In fact, it has local multiplayer if you'd like to co-op with someone on the couch. That's pretty neat. How many turn-based RPGs have local multiplayer? And yet, seems like a fairly simple thing to implement. Makes you wonder. It just goes along with the general theme of this game of a sort of a grab bag nature. There's so much variety, there's so much diversity, there's a good amount of polish, really, and I didn't experience this game when it first came out, and I have heard some people complaining about bugs here and there, so maybe I'm benefiting from thorough playtesting, which is a story all its own, especially for War Thunder players. But for now, we're playing in the... what is this? I guess it's sort of an arena, and I'm trying to go through it by my lonesome. You can see we have Fane with us, and our character, Lily. Lily, such a name for a murderous undead woman. But she doesn't kill everybody. She just she finds it very easy to justify smacking around these XP pinatas, and 75 damage is great damage at this point in the game at the cost of 1 action point, which is ludicrous. You can see we smack someone for 15 with our sword. So what's the deal? It's telekinesis and heavy objects. I think with the way they have a pseudo-physics model in the game, if that crate was more heavy, vis-a-vis full of heavy junk, then you could smack people even harder with it, and it deals the same amount of damage to the crate itself. A very durable reinforced crate is somewhat rare in the game, but every now and then there will be a puzzle somewhere where they want to make sure you don't run out of weighty objects to weigh down triggers and stuff like that, switches and the like, pressure plates even. So they'll give you one of these 3,000, 6,000 durability crates just to make sure you don't accidentally blow up the damn thing. And you can exploit the hell out of that. I haven't used that much, just a little bit to try it out, because I don't really want to cheese the game. I kind of want to explore what the game has to offer and the intended mechanics. But there will be a fair amount of cheese coming up in a later fight. For now, we're slowly, well, rather rapidly at this point, dying to these multiple enemies that of course are all targeting me because I was dumb enough to try and attempt this arena fight alone. Worth a shot, but it didn't work out, or it's not working out, I should say. In any event, I'm gonna need to be more tactical or more open to inviting Fane to this experience if I'm gonna have a good time. But redoing fights a few times in this game is perfectly comfortable for me. I've set the difficulty level to a point that I'm happy with. I think it's the standard difficulty, and enemies can really steamroll you if you give them the opportunity until you've gotten to the reasonable highest local level. This is sort of one of those RPGs that goes in tiers in terms of your power level. Generally, when you enter a new area, as you will do in each new act of the game, most of the things around you will outclass you. Even a one level difference makes a big impact on your experience in a battle. So finding foes, challenges, and opportunities that are suitable for your level is generally in your best interest. But if you want to fight the arena alone, outnumbered and out-leveled, then, well, that's a learning experience all its own. And you can see I'm sort of experimenting here with placing that box, seeing if I can block the ladder, and indeed I can. Can I prevent my death? Less successful in that regard, but at least we have a chance to one-on-one this guy, and then try and one-on-one the doggy. Oh, and we've smacked him with a crate. That's great news for us. Now, if we could get a little bit of healing in here, that would be just divine. We're so close. We're so close to victory, and we're so close to dying. It also appears that we are decaying, which means that anything that would normally heal us is instead going to harm. So we have to just remain on fire here, a fuego, as they say, del sur, and hope that we can tank our way through this damage, or find the opportunity to look at the lovely loading menu for a while and rethink our life choices. Running through the fire doesn't help us all that much, but we do manage to put the smackdown on the Hound and become the champion of the arena. Now, we get a little bit of in-game sound effects. You're welcome. I didn't always listen to a YouTube video while I was playing this game. And of course, this was all recording in the background via Shadowplay. I forget what it's called, but it automatically records the nearest 20 minutes, and then I can save that as a video. So here we are in the culmination of, I think it's the first act. So spoilers, obviously, we're going to be showing some of the major battles in the game. So if you don't want your experience ruined, go back 2 minutes ago in your life and click on a different video. In any event, here we are, to the surprise of no one, fighting What's-His-Nuts, who definitely doesn't want us to leave the island. And there will also be an interloper in our fight, which, again, the big set-piece battles in Divinity are very well crafted. They feel meaningful. They're not all the same. as with other encounters in the game, the reactive skill-based, at least, active abilities-based combat with a very de-emphasis on RNG, that only affecting a few things, melee attacks being one of them. There's just so much tactical depth and diversity to the combat in this game, and it makes me a very happy Toshio. Here we are going invisible and not realizing that when the flames tick damage on us, our invisibility will have ended. In addition, the enemy will spam your area with area of effect abilities, hoping to knock you out of stealth if they don't have other things to focus on. And having re-killed Fane, the enemy is indeed finding myself their only target for the time being. But things are shifting rapidly, and I think we could have an opportunity to get some backup in this fight that's not a giant void worm. Disgusting. And here we go. Bishop Alexander, that's his name. He's a douchebag, holier than thou, tries to be all shiny and pure, and treats everyone that's not his equal with less than human regard. Yes, he's a fucknut. Anyway, now that the massive void worm has decided to try and destroy all of us, it's time to shift things into high gear. And fast forward to the end of the fight, things went well for us. We didn't really have to change up our strategy that we've been using quite a bit at this point in the battle. We use poison damage to heal ourselves, being undead, drop that Iron Dome protective sphere about our position when we need to recover armor and increase our resistances, very helpful, and generally just fill the whole area with flames that deal damage over time and damage on touch about their square to enemies. Great way to wipe people out, and then the occasional charm spell on a foe, turning him into an ally. The Void Woken generally slapping around everybody, giving me an opportunity to poke Alexander's boys until they stop twitching, and then the Void Worm himself succumbing to his wounds in good time. Good fight, good night. Summons, by the way, you can see I have a sort of a totem thing going on there. You can summon one of those per round, and it costs 2 AP, which is not bad. Those are your action points you use for combat actions. I start with 6 because I'm a lone wolf. That's how I prefer to play the Divinity Original Sin games. You have a smaller party, only allowed 1 helper, but in trade-off, your individual abilities are much, much higher. Roughly double, more or less, but the way power balance works in this game, I'd far rather have 2 very strong characters, or even 1, than a party of 4. And thus, we finish the combat. I should mention also the Incarnate. He is another summon, and when you summon him on the ground, he assumes the element that he's in. If it's fire, fire. If water, water. Ice, you know what it is. And electrified water or static clouds makes an air, a zappy style dude. This is where we discover that troll is serious business. I'm not sure exactly how at my level I'm going to defeat this guy, but I don't like facing him in a fair fight, and I have some ideas. So, a moment while I flail around, choke, and cough in my own blood, and then a moment more and I'll have a clever cheese to try. In any event, this is what it looks like to panic terribly as you realize that the enemy can kill you on his next turn. Never a delightful realization. It's sort of when you hope that the enemy AI will break in some stupid way, and he just doesn't. It's definitely time to rethink our strategies. You can see that the enemies have both physical armor and magical armor on top of their health that absorbs damage of the same type, mitigating it and also preventing most status effects until the armor is worn away. Armor recovers at the end of combat, and thus outside of combat, physical and magical armor gives a fantastic value of protection, and the fact that it prevents most status ailments from most characters. Yes, there are abilities that allow you to poison, burn, and do other not so nice, nasty things to foes, even while their armor is still up. But the fact that armor mechanic is there makes it even more satisfying to turn away from an RNG-based status effect system where you have, say, a 65% chance to poison someone, and instead you just know that you can poison them, unless on the off chance they're immune to poison, and I'm not immune to having my skull crushed, so it's time to reload a save and pull out some good old-fashioned cheese. I talked about poison, and you can create poisoned surfaces. The way I do it is by calling down some rain. That's a level 1 hydrosophist skill. Does take a while to recharge, but it's cheap. The troll keeps on initiating dialogue, so I know that I'm not being quite as sneaky as I need to be, and I just keep on laying down rainwater and then contaminating it, turning it into poison. Walking over it, the troll dies. I'm sure that wouldn't work against one of the bosses in the game. Welcome to the man who is essentially the boss of this act, another self-righteous D-bag who just happens to be far more capable than Alexander was. He tore me a new one pretty good, so we break out the cheese. Admittedly, I don't want to cheese every battle in this game, but this guy had it coming. This encounter's kind of BS, especially when you're undead. Up until this point, it was fun to be undead, and then he just broke out all of those healing spells, broke my heart and hurt my feelings, so I poisoned him and had him stand in the jelly until he was just about done for. And then I lit it on fire to kill him in a barbecue. Here's another fight that, well, it's gonna need to be dealt with in a different way, and I'm going to call this more tactical gameplay than cheese. You'll notice that we've reduced our party down to only our main character, and that's because we just don't feel like trusting anyone right now, and that has to do with the story. You don't have to play that way, but I like the immersion of my murder hobo realizing that she's the only person she can trust. In any event, we were seeing how far we could push a solo gameplay, and we could push it through this fight. You just have to break it up into manageable pieces. Take down the enemies one by one. They don't really aggressively target you, and then you can handle them. You can see this is another fight, this time against, I don't know, just some random demon. It's not really important. and he happens to be incredibly powerful at the beginning of the fight, summoning 4 very capable hench demons, as well as pulling on the aggro of his, quote, nurses, who are just more demon-possessed. Sentience. In any event, you may recognize my quick go-to, which is to fill the entire building with fire. The enemy, obligingly, has cursed the ground, causing it to become necrofire, which is easily twice as deadly as ordinary fire and much more difficult to mitigate. Not as much of a problem for my single character that has a fairly decent chunk of HP, armor, and restorative abilities, but quite an obstacle for the enemy hench demons, who do things like running through a room full of necrofire to shave off a good quarter of their health in their first turn. And then I jump away. I have a teleportation ability and an ability that allows me to grow wings and fly. Because this game is fun, that's why. Another thing, I have an elemental affinity feature to my character that means that abilities linked to an element, like fireball and laser beam, which is a thing, laser beam, cost 1 less AP. Again, those are action points used to use your abilities in combat, of which I get 6 per turn. They cost 1 less AP when I'm standing in an element of the same type. So, when I fill the world with when I fill the world with fire, which the enemy obligingly curses into being necrofire, far more deadly that way, I can also spam fireball even more, filling more of the world with necrofire, and more of the enemy with magical damage. Intelligence builds are fun. The abilities in combat for this game are very fun. And it might not look like I'm mixing up my strategy all that much, but I very much am. In fact, I've rebuilt my character a few times by this point. There is, in fact, a magic mirror that allows me to respec whenever I want to. And that's been a lot of fun. Lately, I've been playing a 2-handed weapon build along with a very high strength and intelligence, and a good con as well, which basically turns me into a killing machine that's nigh unstoppable, with fantastic self-healing abilities and damage over time. In any event, that's going to do it for this video. I wanted to sum up a lot of my Divinity Original Sin 2 gameplay that I've been saving up while finding time away from the grindiest War Thunder event in history. Hopefully my sanity has deteriorated just enough to be entertaining, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.